When it comes to your actual writing process, is it different when you're planning a short story compared to when you're planning a longer piece?
Well, I was thinking about this as I was thinking through our conversation for today, and I realized that answers that I've given to this question in past interviews, my answer is a little bit different now. I wasn't lying then. I really believed it when I said it. But what I used to say is that my novels are more about an overarching theme. Like, let's say, the dynamics in a dysfunctional family when it comes to a contested inheritance. Whereas my impetus for writing the short stories was more triggered by a particular event. So, as an example, I wrote a short story called Sea of Troubles when my husband and I were on a cruise. We cruised around Hawaii in 2019, and then we cruised from Hawaii to Vancouver. And I loved the time on the ocean, almost more than I loved the time in Hawaii. It's beautiful as Hawaii is. But being a thriller and mystery writer, I started obsessing about what happens if somebody jumps off the ship. And so I wanted to write a short story about that. But it was clear that it was just somebody jumping off a ship and what happens to a woman who can talk to dead people when that happens. So I knew right away in that case that I couldn't hang a whole story. I couldn't hang an 85,000 word novel off that concept. But I think that I was sort of answering that question with 2020 hindsight, recognizing what I did eventually, but not necessarily what the initial impetus was. And a lot of the ideas I have for my stories, regardless of how long they are, is just a particular moment in time or concept or scene or character or something like that. And then as I start to work on it, I sense whether it's enough to hold a story or hold the length of the story it's prepared to hold. And so, as an example, my fifth Anne Kinnear suspense novel, A Serpent's Tooth, is about a dysfunctional family who's trying to deal with a confusing inheritance situation for the family business. And there's a cast of characters, 4 or 5 characters who all have a stake in the outcome of this. And it's, a huge deal because it's an entire family business. It's a long-running winery. And that clearly is a novel. Like, you can make a novel out of that. But if my idea was that I just wanted to examine the idea of how people deal with the disagreements over an inheritance, but I went into it wanting to write a short story, then I would have just scaled everything back. I would have made it 2 characters instead of 4 or 5 characters. I would have made it a specific smaller thing, like the family heirloom watch or something like that, not an entire family business. And I think I could have done all the same things, but I would just be doing it on a much smaller scale. And so I think that's one thing. What's the complexity of the story you want to tell, and how many words is it going to take to tell it? And then I think the other way that people approach it sometimes is you just start writing and you don't know what it's going to be. And if you're writing away and you step back and you have 2,500 words and you feel like you've captured about half the story you eventually want to tell, then it suggests it's a short story. If you feel like you've captured, a tenth or a 100th of the story you want to tell, then it's not. So I think there are many different ways of planning what you're writing or just go into it and seeing where it takes you.